was in.
No way.
Come on, move it back. Everybody off the ball. Let's put it out here. Move back.
Giants ball.
If you grew up cheering for Little Giants, what happened to those unforgettable faces after 32 years might surprise you. Some found peace, some struggled, and some stories didn't end the way anyone expected. Devon Sawa was born on the 7th of September 1978. He played Junior Floyd, the standout kid quarterback audiences instantly remember from Little Giants. In 1994, he was just a teenager stepping into a role that almost didn't belong to him at first, because he actually replaced another actor after filming had already begun. That kind of start could have created distance. But over time, he became one of the most recognizable faces tied to the film. What makes his story compelling is not just the early success, but what followed. As his career grew through the late 1990s with projects like Casper and Final Destination, he later spoke openly about struggling with the pressure that came with sudden visibility. He described a period where his focus shifted away from work and toward a lifestyle that made it harder to maintain consistency in his career. Over time, he stepped back, reassessed, and eventually rebuilt both his professional and personal life. Today, he continues working while keeping his family life more private. That arc, from rapid rise to instability and then recovery, is something many viewers may not have seen while watching him as a kid. And if Devon's journey shows how quickly things can change under pressure, the next person takes that idea in a completely different direction. Rick Moranis was born on the 18th of April 1953. He played Danny O'Shea, the emotional center of the film and the adult figure many viewers quietly rooted for. By the time Little Giants came out, he was already widely recognized from major comedies, which made his presence feel familiar and comforting. But what stands out most about his story is not what happened on screen, but what he chose to do off-screen. After a personal loss in the early 1990s, he made the deliberate decision to step away from acting at a time when many would have expected him to continue building momentum. In later interviews, he explained that the decision was about prioritizing family, and he has consistently expressed that he does not regret that choice. Over the years, he maintained a low public profile, which made his occasional appearances feel more meaningful to longtime fans. Recently, reports have confirmed that he is set to return to live-action projects, marking a rare reappearance after decades away. That kind of long absence, followed by a potential return, creates a different kind of legacy, one defined as much by absence as by presence. And while Moranis represents a conscious step away from the spotlight, the next story shows what can happen when someone leaves for very different reasons. Paul Steuer was born on the 27th of March 1984. He played Johnny Viper Venero, a supporting role that still stands out to viewers who remember the team dynamic of the film. Unlike some of the others, his time in the industry did not extend very far beyond his early years. He later explained that his decision to leave acting came not from a lack of opportunity, but from his experience navigating the environment around auditions and public attention at a young age. After stepping away, he explored other creative paths, including music, and later became involved in the restaurant business. That transition reflects a shift many former child actors make when they seek a different kind of life outside of entertainment. However, his story also includes a much heavier outcome, as he passed away in 2018 at the age of 33. For many viewers, learning that detail reframes how they look back at his role in the film. It becomes less about a character and more about a life that changed direction early and ended too soon. And when you place that alongside the previous stories, a pattern begins to emerge: success, withdrawal, reinvention, and sometimes loss. But that pattern becomes even more layered when we move into the next group of names, where stability and unpredictability exist side by side. Edward Leonard O'Neill was born on the 12th of April, 1946. He played Kevin O'Shea, the confident and competitive coach who stood on the opposite side of Danny O'Shea. By the time Little Giants was released, he was already a familiar face to American audiences, known for portraying strong, often dominant personalities. But what makes his story more layered is what came before acting. He once pursued a career in football and even reached the level of professional training camps before being cut, which forced him to rethink his future. That early disappointment shaped the direction of his life, pushing him toward acting at a time when his original plan had already fallen apart. Over the years, he built a long and steady career, becoming part of multiple successful television projects. Unlike many others in the industry, his path did not revolve around sudden rises and collapses, but rather a consistent presence that lasted decades. In interviews, he has occasionally reflected on missed opportunities or moments he wished he had handled differently, which adds a level of honesty to how he looks back on his past. Today, he is often associated with stability, both professionally and personally. And while that steady trajectory may seem less dramatic on the surface, it highlights a different kind of success, one built over time rather than through sudden impact. But just as his story represents long-term consistency, the next name reflects a quieter path that gradually moved away from the spotlight. Shawna Waldron was born on the 25th of January 1982. She played Becky Icebox O'Shea, one of the most memorable characters in the entire film, and a role that challenged expectations at the time. For many viewers, she represented determination and identity, making her performance stand out even decades later. What's interesting is that this film marked her first major on-screen appearance, placing her in a position where early success could have easily led to a more visible trajectory. She did continue acting in the years that followed, appearing in several projects, but her career gradually shifted into a more low-profile direction. Instead of becoming a constant presence in mainstream media, she maintained a quieter professional life, choosing projects more selectively. Outside of acting, she has also been involved in other fields, reflecting a broader approach to life beyond entertainment. That transition is not always visible to audiences who remember her from a single iconic role, but it shows how different career paths can evolve over time. Her story doesn't center around controversy or dramatic turning points, but rather a gradual shift away from the kind of attention she once had. And sometimes, that kind of quiet transition says just as much as a headline-making career. Still, not every story in this cast followed such a calm direction, and the next one introduces a very different set of experiences shaped by both success and personal challenges. Alexa PenaVega was born on 27 de agosto de 1988. She played Priscilla O'Shea, a small but recognizable presence in Little Giants who later became much more widely known for roles in other family-oriented projects. Her early appearance in the film may not have been the most prominent, but it marked the beginning of a career that continued to develop over time. As she grew older, she took on more visible roles and became part of a different generation of family entertainment. However, her life has also included personal challenges that she has addressed publicly, including changes in her relationships and experiences that required emotional resilience. In more recent years, she has continued working in film and television while also focusing on family life. That balance between professional work and personal priorities is something many viewers can relate to, especially when looking at long-term careers that extend beyond early fame. Her journey reflects both continuity and change, showing how a small role can eventually connect to a much larger story. And as her path demonstrates growth through different phases of life, the next individual represents a shift not just in career direction, but in the entire industry they chose to be part of. Joey Simmrin was born in 1981. He played Sean Murphy, one of the young players who contributed to the team dynamic that made the film memorable. After his early acting roles in the 1990s, he did not remain in front of the camera long-term. Instead, he transitioned into the music industry, where he took on roles behind the scenes. Over time, he became involved in artist management and production, working with well-known figures and contributing to projects that operate outside the traditional spotlight. That kind of shift often goes unnoticed by audiences who associate him with his earlier acting work. But it represents a different kind of success, one that depends on strategy, collaboration, and long-term planning rather than public recognition. His career path highlights how skills developed in one part of the entertainment industry can be applied in another, often with greater control and stability. It also reflects a conscious decision to move away from on-screen visibility in favor of influence behind the scenes. And when you compare that to the earlier stories, it becomes clear that leaving acting does not always mean stepping away from success. It can mean redefining it entirely. Samuel Emmett Horrigan was born in 1981. He played Spike Hammersmith, the confident and slightly intimidating presence on the opposing team, who added tension and contrast to the story. At the time, his character represented the kind of kid many viewers instantly recognized from real life, the one who seemed stronger, louder, and always one step ahead. After Little Giants, he continued acting through the 1990s and early 2000s, appearing in a range of television projects that kept him visible without pushing him into the highest tier of fame. What makes his journey interesting is how it avoided the extremes that often define child actors' stories. There was no sudden disappearance, but also no explosive rise into constant headlines. Instead, his career followed a steady, moderate path. In his personal life, there were challenges, including the end of a marriage, which he addressed in a straightforward and private way. Today, he continues to work in entertainment while also focusing on family and community, including teaching roles that reflect a very different image from the character he once played. That contrast between the on-screen persona and the off-screen life highlights how much can change over time. And if his story feels grounded and balanced, the next one continues that theme but from a slightly different angle. Todd Bosley was born on the 29th of July, 1984. He played Jake Berman, one of the younger members of the team whose presence added to the underdog spirit that defined the film. After his role in Little Giants, he remained active in television, appearing in well-known series across different genres. His career did not revolve around a single breakout moment, but rather a series of consistent appearances that kept him working over time. What stands out about his story is the absence of major public controversy. In an industry where attention often follows conflict, his path reflects a quieter kind of persistence. He continued acting, built professional relationships, and maintained a connection to the work without becoming part of the more dramatic narratives that surround many former child actors. In recent years, he has even reunited with former cast members for events connected to the film, showing that the bond created during that period still exists. That kind of continuity adds another layer to how audiences remember these projects, not just as isolated performances, but as shared experiences that extend beyond the screen. And while his journey represents stability and connection, the final name brings us back to a different generation within the cast. Completing the broader picture, Ellen Trainor was born on the 8th of July, 1952. She played Karen O'Shea, an adult supporting role that added depth to the family dynamic within the film. By the time she appeared in Little Giants, she was already a well-established character actress with a long list of recognizable credits. Her career was built not on a single defining role, but on a consistent presence across multiple major films, where she contributed to the tone and structure of each story. That kind of work often goes less recognized in public discussions, but it plays a crucial role in shaping how audiences experience a film. In her personal life, she maintained a long-term relationship that later ended in divorce, reflecting the kind of life changes many people experience outside of the spotlight. She continued working for years, contributing to projects that spanned different genres and audiences. In 2015, she passed away at the age of 62 due to health complications, marking the end of a career that had quietly supported many well-known productions. For viewers looking back, her presence in Little Giants becomes part of a much larger legacy, one that connects multiple films and eras through a single performer. Looking back at Little Giants after all these years, what stays with me isn't just the game, but the people behind it. 10 lives, 10 different directions, some inspiring, some difficult, all real. That's what makes revisiting films like this feel meaningful, because the story didn't end when the credits rolled. If this video brought back memories for you, take a second to like, share, and subscribe. And more importantly, tell me in the comments which cast member's journey surprised you the most, and which one still feels exactly the same.